Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. I'm Adam, and I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're diving into a topic that many of you have been asking about: how to prepare for English proficiency tests like TOEFL, IELTS, and TOEIC. Whether you're planning to study abroad, land your dream job, or just want to prove your English skills, this episode is for you.
Hi friends, I'm Sophia, and I'm thrilled to be with you. Learning English is a journey, and these tests are a big milestone for many learners worldwide. We know it can feel overwhelming, but don't worry. We're here to guide you step by step. I remember my own journey with English proficiency tests, and trust me, I've been where you are. We'll make this fun and simple.
Exactly. But before we get started, here's a quick question. What's your biggest challenge when it comes to preparing for these tests? Is it the speaking section, managing your time, or something else? Let us know. You can drop a comment or message us. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Great question, Adam. And guys, stay tuned because we'll be sharing some amazing tips that are practical, effective, and even fun to try. We'll cover everything from understanding the test formats to dealing with test day stress. Plus, we have a special resource for you at the end, so don't miss it.
Yes, and make sure you stick around. By the end of this episode, you'll have actionable strategies to feel more confident and prepared. Whether you're just starting or you've taken these tests before, there's something for everyone here.
And just to add, don't forget that learning is a process. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to keep improving. So grab a notebook and let's get started.
Let's do it. All right, folks, buckle up. This is going to be an exciting ride. All right, now that we've gotten an introduction, let's get into the meat of today's conversation, understanding the different English proficiency tests out there. We're talking about TOEFL, IELTS, and TOEIC, three of the most recognized exams globally. These tests are crucial for a lot of English learners, especially those aiming to study abroad, work in international companies, or even migrate. But how do you know which one is right for you? That's what we're here to break down. Let's start with TOEFL. Sophia, could you help our listeners understand what TOEFL is all about and why it's so important?
Of course, Adam. TOEFL stands for Test of English as a Foreign Language, and it's primarily aimed at students who want to pursue higher education in English-speaking countries. It's all about assessing your ability to understand and use academic English in a university setting. The exam is used by thousands of universities worldwide to determine if you have the English skills necessary to succeed in an academic environment. So, if you're planning to study abroad, especially in countries like the United States, TOEFL is likely going to be the test you need to take. It tests you on 4 areas: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. These sections are designed to simulate real-life academic situations, such as listening to lectures, reading textbooks, writing essays, and participating in discussions. It's all about making sure you can handle English in a classroom, which is a pretty big deal for anyone pursuing higher education.
Exactly. TOEFL's focus on academic English is what makes it unique. And as you mentioned, it covers 4 sections, but what's especially interesting is that the listening section isn't just about hearing and understanding. It's designed to mimic what you might experience in an actual lecture. So you could be listening to a professor discussing a concept, and then you'd have to answer questions based on what you heard. The speaking section is also different. It's not face-to-face with an examiner. Instead, you'll speak into a microphone, and your responses are recorded and evaluated later. This means there's less pressure to speak directly to someone in real time, which can be a relief for test takers who feel nervous about that face-to-face interaction.
That's a great point, Adam. The speaking section's format definitely takes some of the pressure off. Now let's talk about IELTS. This is another major English proficiency exam, but it serves a broader range of purposes. It's not just for students, It's also used for work and immigration purposes. Would you like to explain more about IELTS?
Definitely, Sophia. So, IELTS, which stands for International English Language Testing System, is one of the most widely used English proficiency tests around the world. It's not only accepted by universities but also by governments, employers, and immigration authorities in English-speaking countries. IELTS has two versions, academic and general training. The academic version is for students who want to study at a university or higher education institution, just like TOEFL. But the general training version is designed for people who are looking to work, immigrate, or train in an English-speaking country. The reason IELTS is so popular is because it's very versatile. It's not limited to academic contexts like TOEFL. So, whether you're a student, a professional, or someone looking to migrate, IELTS can serve your needs.
Exactly, Adam. The versatility of IELTS makes it one of the go-to exams for anyone with goals in an English-speaking environment, whether that's studying, working, or even moving to a new country. The exam also has 4 sections: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. But one of the key differences between IELTS and TOEFL is the speaking section. Instead of being recorded, like in TOEFL, the speaking test in IELTS is done face-to-face with a real examiner. This makes it feel more natural as you're having an actual conversation with someone. This is great for people who prefer a more personal interaction. It's also broken down into 3 parts: an introduction, a speech on a given topic, and a discussion with the examiner. It's a more interactive experience than just speaking into a microphone.
That's a big difference. The face-to-face interaction in IELTS can definitely make it feel less intimidating. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about TOEIC, which is a bit different from both TOEFL and IELTS. TOEIC stands for Test of English for International Communication, and it's more business and career-focused. Can you explain a little more about TOEIC, Sophia?
Sure, Adam. TOEIC is all about testing English for the workplace. Unlike TOEFL and IELTS, which are more focused on academics, TOEIC is designed to assess how well you can communicate in professional and business settings. If you're looking to work in an international company or use English in your career, TOEIC might be the best test for you. It's widely used by companies to evaluate the English skills of job candidates, especially in countries like Japan, South Korea, and China. The test measures your ability to handle situations like giving presentations, participating in meetings, writing emails, and managing business correspondence. So, if your goal is to advance your career or show your English proficiency to potential employers, TOEIC is the test to consider.
That's a great point, Sophia. TOEIC is all about real-world communication in the workplace. It's not academic English, but practical English that you would use on the job. So, if you're looking to work abroad or show your employer that you've got strong English skills, TOEIC is definitely something to consider. And just like the other tests, it has 4 sections: listening, reading, speaking, and writing. The difference here is that TOEIC's focus is entirely on communication in a business context.
Exactly. So, to sum it all up, we've got 3 distinct tests: TOEFL for academic English, IELTS for a mix of academic, work, and immigration needs, and TOEIC for business and workplace communication. Each of these tests serves a different purpose, so choosing the right one really depends on what you want to achieve.
That's the key takeaway, Sophia. It all comes down to your goals. If you want to study abroad, TOEFL might be your best option. If you're looking to work or migrate to an English-speaking country, IELTS could be the way to go. And if you're aiming for career advancement in an international company, TOEIC is your test of choice.
Absolutely, Adam. And remember, don't just pick a test randomly. Take the time to research the requirements of your target university, company, or immigration authority. They'll usually tell you exactly which test they accept and the scores they're looking for.
Great advice, Sophia. So, listeners, Now that you know a bit more about these tests, take a moment to think about your personal goals. Whether it's studying abroad, working in an international company, or migrating, choosing the right test is crucial for your success. All right, we've talked about the tests themselves, TOEFL, IELTS, and TOEIC, but none of that matters if you don't set the right goals. It's time to dive into something that will set the foundation for your success, setting realistic goals. Now, why is this so important? Think about it. If you don't know where you're headed, how will you know how to get there? Whether you're preparing for one of these exams to study abroad, get a job, or migrate, setting clear, achievable goals is your first step to success. Sophia, how do you even begin setting these goals? What should our listeners keep in mind when they start?
Great question, Adam. Setting goals might sound simple, but it's one of the most important steps in your preparation journey. It's not just about saying, I want to get a high score, or I want to pass the test. You need to dig deeper, be specific. So first off, think about your why. Why are you taking this test? Is it for university admission? Are you aiming for a job abroad? Or maybe you want to migrate to an English-speaking country. Whatever it is, knowing the purpose behind your goal will help shape everything you do. And that's where we begin, defining your purpose. Adam, can you share your thoughts on why starting with a purpose is so powerful?
Absolutely, Sophia. Knowing your why is like having a roadmap. It's what drives you to push through those tough days when you feel like giving up. Let's say you're aiming for university admission, and you know that you need a TOEFL score of 100 or more. That's not just a random number. You have a clear target that helps you focus your energy. And guess what? The more specific you are with your goal, the more motivated you'll be to stay on track. It's all about clarity. If your goal is vague, like I just want to pass the test, then it's easy to get distracted or feel overwhelmed. But when you know exactly what score you need and what your test is for, you're giving yourself a sense of purpose and direction.
I love how you put that, Adam. It's like having a map when you're on a long journey. You won't feel lost. Now, once you have your why and your target score in mind, it's time to set some short-term goals. You don't want to jump straight into studying for hours every day, right? That could quickly lead to burnout. Instead, break down your bigger goal into smaller, manageable milestones. For example, maybe today your goal is to complete one listening practice test, or tomorrow you'll focus on improving your writing skills for 30 minutes. These small wins will add up over time.
Exactly. Small goals make big goals seem a lot less intimidating. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when you're staring down a huge exam, but when you break it into bite-sized chunks, it becomes more manageable. Let's say you want to improve your reading skills for TOEFL. A short-term goal might be to read one article a day and focus on understanding the main idea and vocabulary. If you hit this goal consistently, you'll see improvement over time, and you'll feel great knowing you're making progress. The key is to celebrate these wins. Every time you hit a milestone, whether it's completing a practice test or improving your score by a few points, give yourself credit.
Yes, it's so important to reward yourself for your progress. And it doesn't have to be a big reward. Maybe you take a short break, watch an episode of your favorite show, or grab a treat. These small celebrations can keep you motivated and focused, especially when you're putting in so much hard work. Another thing to keep in mind is to set realistic timelines. Give yourself enough time to prepare properly, but don't put too much pressure on yourself. I've seen people try to cram everything into a week and then burn out before the test even happens.
I totally agree with that, Sophia. Setting realistic timelines is key to avoiding stress. It's tempting to want to study non-stop, but that's not the way to success. Let's say you have 3 months until your exam. What you need to do is break down the topics you need to study into weeks and months. For example, the first month could focus on improving your reading skills, the second month on writing, and the final month on intensive practice tests. It's important to pace yourself. A steady, consistent study routine will always beat cramming.
Exactly. Pacing yourself is vital, and it's about finding that balance. Don't study for hours and hours without a break. Take it one step at a time. Another part of setting realistic goals is knowing your strengths and weaknesses. Maybe you're fantastic at listening but struggle with writing. In this case, you should prioritize your weaknesses while still practicing your strengths to keep them sharp. It's important to be honest with yourself and really assess where you need the most improvement.
That's such an important point, Sophia. Be honest with yourself. It's okay to admit where you need improvement. That's how you grow. One great way to do this is by taking diagnostic tests early in your preparation. These can help you figure out which areas need the most work. If you see you're struggling with writing, then that's where you should spend more of your time. If listening is easy for you, then great. Keep practicing, but don't over-focus on it at the expense of weaker areas.
Exactly. And another tip to stay focused is to track your progress. Keep a journal or a spreadsheet where you note what you've done each day. It could be as simple as saying, "Today I completed a TOEFL listening practice test," or "I studied 20 new vocabulary words." Tracking your progress gives you a visual reminder of how far you've come, and it also helps you stay on top of your schedule. Plus, when you look back and see how much you've accomplished, it's an instant confidence booster.
I love that idea. Tracking progress helps you stay motivated and on track. And don't forget, setting realistic goals isn't about being perfect. It's about consistency. It's about putting in the effort day after day and making steady progress. The road to success is built on small, consistent actions. So, listeners, remember, don't overwhelm yourself with too many goals. Focus on your main target. Break it down into smaller steps and celebrate those wins along the way.
Exactly, Adam. Focus on what you can control, take small steps, and trust the process. Keep checking in with your goals, adjust your timeline if necessary, but always keep moving forward. In the next chapter, we'll discuss how to create a solid study plan that will help you tackle your goals effectively and stay motivated throughout your preparation. Stick with us. We're just getting started.
All right, now that we've got a solid foundation, we're moving on to one of the most important aspects of your test prep, building a study plan. A study plan is essentially your roadmap for success, so don't overlook it. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by all the material you need to cover or struggled to stay on track, then creating a study plan will be a game changer for you. Sophia, I know a lot of people feel like they don't have time or don't know where to start when it comes to planning their study sessions. How do you even begin?
Great question, Adam. Building a study plan is like setting up a clear path to reach your goal. And just like we talked about in the last chapter, the first step is to set realistic goals. Once you know exactly what you need to achieve and how much time you have until your test, you can start breaking things down. I recommend starting with a diagnostic test. It's like a snapshot of your current skills. It'll show you where you stand and highlight your strengths and weaknesses. Adam, why do you think a diagnostic test is so important in the early stages of preparing for your exam?
A diagnostic test is a game changer, Sophia. It gives you a clear understanding of where you are, which is crucial before you dive into studying. You need to know what areas you're strong in and what areas you need to improve. For instance, if you score high in the listening section but lower in writing, then your study plan should focus more on improving your writing skills. This way, you're not wasting time studying things you already know well, and it helps you get realistic about the time you'll need to allocate to each section. So, that's the first step. Take a diagnostic test and get a baseline for your current skills.
Exactly. Once you have those results, you can start prioritizing. Now, let's talk about breaking your study sessions down. You don't want to study for hours without a break. That's just asking for burnout. Instead, aim for focused study sessions, say 45 to 60 minutes per session, followed by a 10 to 15-minute break. This approach is scientifically proven to improve focus and retention. I also suggest mixing up your study activities. Don't just focus on one section of the test at a time. Switch it up. One day, focus on improving your reading skills, and the next day, work on your speaking or writing. What are your thoughts on switching things up, Adam?
I'm a huge fan of variety in your study plan. If you stick to one skill for too long, your brain can get fatigued and you'll lose focus. Mixing up your study sessions keeps things fresh and challenging. It also prevents boredom, which is a real productivity killer. And Sophia, you're right. Taking breaks is essential. It's like a reset for your brain. You're more likely to retain what you've learned when you give yourself some time to rest and recharge. And when you plan out your study sessions, make sure to include a balance between practice and review.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, a study plan that only includes new material can quickly leave you feeling overwhelmed. You also need to make time for reviewing what you've learned. This is where spaced repetition comes in. It's a method where you review information at increasing intervals over time. So, for example, if you study vocabulary one day, you might review it the next day, then again in a few days, and then a week later. This method helps improve long-term retention. Adam, do you have any tips for how people can stay on track with reviewing regularly?
Great point, Sophia. Spaced repetition is one of the most powerful tools for long-term retention. I recommend setting up a study calendar or using an app to remind you when it's time to review. You can schedule weekly reviews of the material you studied earlier in the week. Another great tool is flashcards, whether digital or on paper. With apps like Anki or Quizlet, you can create flashcards for vocabulary, grammar, or listening practice. These tools use spaced repetition algorithms to make sure you review words at the optimal time to keep them fresh in your mind. And don't forget about self-testing. It's not enough just to study the material. You need to test yourself to see how much you've truly learned.
Self-testing is key. When you simulate the test environment and actually practice under timed conditions, you get a much clearer idea of how prepared you are. I also recommend taking full-length practice tests every couple of weeks, especially as your exam day approaches. This will help you get used to the test format and timing, and you'll build test-taking stamina. Adam, how often do you think listeners should do these full-length practice tests?
That's a great question. I'd recommend doing a full-length practice test once every 2 weeks in the beginning. This gives you time to adjust your study plan and address any weak spots. But as your test date gets closer, increase the frequency to once a week. These practice tests are crucial because they help you get comfortable with the pressure of the actual exam. Also, don't just take the practice tests and move on. Analyze your results. Look at which sections you struggled with and use that information to guide your next steps.
Absolutely, Adam. And speaking of test analysis, make sure to set specific weekly goals. For instance, in the first week, your goal might be to work on improving your speaking skills, while in the second week, you could focus on enhancing your reading comprehension. At the end of each week, review your progress and adjust your plan if necessary. Flexibility is key.
Right, Sophia. Flexibility is super important. Life happens, and sometimes you might need to adjust your study plan. But the important thing is to keep going and not lose momentum. And don't forget to include rest days in your plan. It's easy to get caught up in non-stop studying, but burnout is a real threat. Incorporate days when you can rest, recharge, and even do something enjoyable in English, like watching a movie or listening to a podcast.
Exactly. Balance is everything. You can't go full speed ahead without giving yourself time to recharge. And remember, your study plan should be personalized to fit your own schedule, strengths, and weaknesses. If you can dedicate 2 hours a day, that's fantastic. But if you only have an hour, that's fine too. The key is consistency and making sure you're always moving forward.
Yes, personalized and consistent. Those are the keys to a successful study plan. So listeners, now you know how to build your study plan from the ground up. Start with a diagnostic test. Create a balanced schedule with plenty of review, track your progress, and don't forget those essential rest days. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to stay motivated during the study process and how to overcome the inevitable challenges you'll face. Trust us, you've got this.
We're with you all the way, and we'll make sure you stay motivated and on track. Keep listening because there's so much more to learn and apply to your prep.
All right, we're in the thick of it now, and if you've been following along with us, you're building a solid foundation for your test preparation. But no matter how great your goals are or how perfect your study plan is, you need the right resources to fuel your progress. In this chapter, we're diving into the resources you simply can't ignore, the tools and materials that will take your study sessions to the next level. Sophia, let's kick things off. What are the must-have resources for someone preparing for tests like TOEFL, IELTS, or TOEIC?
Great question, Adam. The first thing to note is that having the right resources doesn't mean you need to spend a ton of money. There are plenty of free resources out there, and using the best ones will make your preparation much more efficient. Let's start with the official test websites. These are your gold mines. For TOEFL, IELTS, and TOEIC, the official websites offer everything from practice questions to study guides and even full-length practice tests. These resources give you a real sense of what to expect and help familiarize you with the test format. Adam, why do you think the official materials are so important?
You hit the nail on the head, Sophia. The official materials are literally a preview of the real thing. When you use them, you're not just studying random questions that may or may not resemble the actual test. You're practicing with materials that have been specifically designed to mirror the test format and question types. This is super important because it helps reduce test day anxiety. You'll already be familiar with the structure. Plus, when you use official resources, you're learning exactly what the test creators expect. It's all about giving yourself the edge.
Exactly. Now, while official resources are essential, we also have to talk about language apps. These are incredibly powerful and can be used alongside your study plan to keep your skills sharp on a daily basis. Apps like Duolingo, Babbel, and Memrise are fantastic for improving vocabulary, grammar, and even pronunciation. They're also perfect for on-the-go learning. And the best part? Many of these apps are free or offer free versions that are still packed with content. Adam, do you have any favorite apps you recommend for improving English skills on the go?
I love those apps, Sophia. And if you're someone who's on the move a lot or has a busy schedule, they're perfect. One of my favorite apps is Anki, especially for vocabulary. It's a flashcard app that uses spaced repetition, so as you study, it makes sure you're reviewing words just before you're about to forget them. Another great one is HelloTalk. This app connects you with native English speakers, so you can practice real-world conversations in real time. That kind of interaction is invaluable, especially for improving your speaking and listening skills. And the best part? It's free, so there's no excuse not to use it.
Love those suggestions, Adam. Anki is definitely a must-have, and HelloTalk is a fantastic way to improve speaking skills. Now, let's talk about something many people forget: YouTube channels. If you're not watching YouTube videos to improve your English, you're missing out. There are hundreds of channels dedicated to helping you prepare for these exams. Channels like English Class 101, Rachel's English, and BBC Learning English are fantastic for learning pronunciation, listening, and even test-specific strategies. They offer a mix of free videos that cover everything from vocabulary to speaking tips and real test strategies.
Yes, YouTube is an absolute treasure trove for learning. There's so much free content out there that you can tailor to exactly what you need. And it's not just about studying vocabulary or grammar. These channels can help you prepare mentally for the test as well. I've seen videos that simulate real test environments or walk you through strategies to tackle difficult questions. For example, Rachel's English has an amazing section on American English pronunciation, which can be extremely helpful if you're preparing for TOEFL.
And don't forget about the official YouTube channels for each test. TOEFL, IELTS, and TOEIC all have official YouTube channels where they post tips, sample tests, and even live webinars. These channels are a great resource because they offer direct insight into the test creator's mindset, so you can be sure the advice is spot on. Another resource that I think is often overlooked is English podcasts. Listening to English podcasts, like the one you're listening to right now, can help you with listening comprehension, vocabulary building, and even learning how to speak more fluently.
Totally agree, Sophia. Podcasts are great because they give you exposure to natural English in everyday conversations. The more you listen, the more you get used to different accents, speaking speeds, and topics. This can really help when it comes to the listening sections of these exams. Plus, podcasts are perfect for passive learning. You can listen to them while commuting, cooking, or exercising. So, if you're not already listening to English podcasts regularly, now's the time to start.
Speaking of passive learning, another resource I recommend is audiobooks. Audiobooks are a fantastic way to build vocabulary, improve listening skills, and get used to different English accents, all while being entertained. You can download audiobooks on apps like Audible or LibriVox, which offer a wide range of free options. Choose books that interest you, and you'll be more likely to stay engaged. And the best part is, they're perfect for learning during those moments when you can't actively study but still want to improve your skills.
Great point, Sophia. Audiobooks are the perfect blend of entertainment and education. Now, let's talk about a resource that I think is often underestimated: online forums and study groups. Communities like Reddit, Facebook groups, or dedicated test prep forums are gold mines for test takers. These communities offer a place where you can exchange study tips, share experiences, and ask questions. Joining a community can also keep you motivated and accountable, as you can track your progress and interact with others who are going through the same thing.
Absolutely. Forums and online communities also help you stay up to date on any changes in the test format, and they can introduce you to new study resources you might not have heard about. It's great to be part of a support network that's focused on your goals. And finally, practice test books. These can be found in bookstores or online, and they're invaluable for simulating test conditions. Having a book that's full of sample tests can help you practice under real-time conditions, which is essential as the test day approaches.
I couldn't agree more. These books are especially important when you're close to test day and need to work on your timing. Practice test books are the closest thing to the real exam experience. But just like with any resource, make sure to analyze your results after each practice test. Don't just focus on the scores. Figure out which sections gave you the most trouble, and use that information to refine your study plan.
Exactly. Every resource, whether it's a book, an app, a YouTube video, or a community, serves a unique purpose in your journey. By combining these tools, you're ensuring that you're covering all angles: vocabulary, grammar, listening, speaking, and even test-taking strategies. So, listeners, the resources we've talked about today are all ones you can't ignore. Use them wisely, mix and match, and most importantly, make them part of your daily routine.
And remember, it's not just about working harder, it's about working smarter. With the right resources, you can optimize your study time and maximize your chances of success. All right, we've covered a lot so far: setting goals, making study plans, and using the best resources. But here's the thing: all of that means nothing if you're not practicing effectively. Practice is the key to success when it comes to English proficiency exams. It's like building muscle at the gym. Without consistent practice, you're not going to see results. So, how do you practice like a pro and make every study session count? That's exactly what we're going to dive into today. Sophia, let's start with this. What's the first thing people need to know about effective practice?
Great point, Adam. The first thing I want to stress is quality over quantity. It's not about how many hours you spend studying, it's about how focused and intentional your practice is. You could spend 4 hours a day studying, but if you're distracted, not fully engaged, or just going through the motions, that time won't be effective. Instead, break up your study sessions into highly focused chunks. 45 to 60 minutes is perfect. During these sessions, eliminate all distractions and give 100% of your attention to the task at hand. Adam, why do you think focused practice is so much more effective than just doing time?
You're absolutely right, Sophia. The power of focused practice cannot be underestimated. When you're fully engaged, your brain processes and retains the information much more efficiently. Think about it. When you're distracted, even if you're spending a lot of time, you're not really absorbing the material. It's like trying to study in a noisy coffee shop. There's a limit to how much you'll actually learn. So, it's all about being mindful and present during your study time. Also, during these sessions, don't just passively read or listen, actively interact with the material. Whether it's writing down key points, repeating phrases, or answering practice questions, make sure you're actively engaging with the content.
Exactly, Adam. Active engagement is key. One way to really supercharge your practice sessions is to focus on targeted skills. Think about which areas you need the most improvement in. Is it listening, speaking, writing? Each skill requires a different approach. For example, if you're working on listening, you could use resources like TED Talks or podcasts, but the trick is not to just listen and hope it sticks. Instead, listen actively. Pause the audio, repeat key phrases, or write down what you understand. Adam, how do you think people can practice listening effectively to improve their skills?
That's a great point, Sophia. Listening is often the trickiest skill to master, but here's the thing, practice makes it much easier. Active listening is your best bet. Listen to a podcast or watch a YouTube video in English, but don't just sit back passively. Take notes. Try to summarize what you just heard. If you miss something, rewind and listen again. I also recommend shadowing, which is when you listen to a speaker and try to imitate their pronunciation, intonation, and pacing. Shadowing helps with both listening and speaking because it trains your ear to understand natural speech patterns while forcing you to practice speaking fluently. It's a powerful technique.
I love shadowing. It's such an effective technique for improving both listening and speaking simultaneously. And when we're talking about speaking practice, one of the most effective things you can do is speak out loud every day. It sounds simple, but it's a huge game changer. Even if you're not in a class or having a conversation with someone, you can practice your speaking skills by talking to yourself. Try narrating your day, describing what's around you, or even reading an English article out loud. This practice helps you get comfortable forming sentences and speaking fluently. Adam, how do you feel about speaking practice, especially when there's no one around to talk to?
Sophia, I couldn't agree more. Speaking is one of those skills that really improves with constant use. Even if you're alone, you can always find ways to practice. And I get it. Sometimes it's tough to find someone to practice with, but don't let that hold you back. You can use language exchange apps like HelloTalk or Tandem to connect with native speakers. Another great technique is to record yourself speaking. It might feel a little awkward at first, but listening to yourself will help you spot areas for improvement, like your pronunciation or your fluency. And believe me, the more you practice speaking, the more natural it will feel.
Yes, recording yourself is such a powerful tool. It gives you a chance to self-assess and identify things like pronunciation issues, sentence structure, and even fluency. But don't be too critical. Remember, practice is about progress, not perfection. Also, when it comes to writing, the key is practice under time constraints. When you're writing essays or short answers, set a timer for 30 minutes, just like you'll have on the test. This will help you manage your time better and give you a sense of the pressure you'll feel on test day. Adam, how can people practice writing more effectively?
Great tip, Sophia. Timed writing is super important because it helps you improve not just your writing skills, but also your time management. When you're practicing, focus on structure. Make sure you have an introduction, body paragraphs, and a conclusion. Write about a variety of topics, and don't just focus on perfect grammar. Focus on expressing your ideas clearly and coherently. One way to really sharpen your writing is to get feedback. If you're in a study group, ask others to review your work. If not, you can use online resources or even apps like Grammarly to give you immediate feedback on grammar and sentence structure.
Exactly. Feedback is such an essential part of the learning process, whether you're practicing writing or speaking. It helps you pinpoint specific areas to work on, and it keeps you from repeating the same mistakes. Another great strategy is to break down test sections and practice one skill at a time. For instance, let's say you're working on the reading section. You could start by practicing with multiple choice questions and then focus on comprehension skills. As you get more comfortable, gradually increase the difficulty. This way, you're not overwhelming yourself and you can measure your progress step by step.
Great advice, Sophia. Breaking things down makes it more manageable and less intimidating. And as you practice, keep in mind that repetition is key, but it's important to practice the right way. Don't just keep repeating mistakes. Focus on improving. If you're getting a question wrong, take a moment to understand why and learn from it. Don't just move on until you're confident that you've mastered that concept. So, listeners, remember that practice isn't just about doing something over and over. It's about practicing strategically and ensuring you're always challenging yourself to improve.
That's right. Strategic practice is the secret to mastering these exams. As we wrap up this chapter, remember that it's not about how much time you spend studying, but about how effectively you use that time. Practice with purpose, stay focused, and always keep improving. In the next chapter, we'll talk about test day strategies to make sure you're feeling confident when the big day arrives.
That's right, Sophia. After all the hard work, you'll need a solid game plan for test day. So stay tuned, because we're about to give you the best tips for acing the exam when it counts the most. All right, listeners, we've covered a lot of ground: setting goals, finding resources, and perfecting your practice routine. But now, there's something we need to talk about that many test takers struggle with: test anxiety. No matter how prepared you are, that nervous feeling before or during the exam can still affect you. It's completely normal to feel anxious, but the key is learning how to manage that anxiety so it doesn't hinder your performance. So, let's dive into some strategies that can help you face test day with confidence. Sophia, what's the first thing people need to know about dealing with test anxiety?
That's such an important topic, Adam. The first thing I want to tell everyone is that test anxiety is completely normal. You are not alone. Almost everyone feels nervous or stressed before an important exam, but the key is not letting that anxiety take control. The good news is, there are strategies you can use to manage your nerves and keep them from overwhelming you. One of the most effective strategies is deep breathing. When you start to feel your heart race or your mind start to spiral, stop and take a few slow, deep breaths. This helps activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of your body that calms you down. Adam, do you have any other techniques you use when you're feeling anxious?
Oh, absolutely, Sophia. Breathing is a powerful tool. But another technique that works wonders for me is visualization. Take a few moments before the test to close your eyes and imagine yourself walking through the test calmly and confidently. Picture yourself answering questions with ease, moving through the test without stress, and finishing with a sense of accomplishment. This kind of mental imagery can help reduce anxiety by making the experience feel less intimidating and more familiar. And the beauty of visualization is that you can do it anytime, whether you're at home, during a break, or even right before you sit down for the test.
I love the idea of visualization, Adam. It's like preparing yourself mentally before the big moment. Another strategy is to reframe your thoughts. A lot of the anxiety we feel comes from the way we think about the test. If you approach the test with the mindset that it's a huge obstacle you must overcome, then that's going to increase your stress. But if you can reframe it as just another challenge, something that you've been preparing for and are capable of handling, then the anxiety tends to lessen. Tell yourself that this test doesn't define you and that you've already done the hard work to prepare. Adam, what are your thoughts on mindset and its impact on performance?
Mindset is huge. You hit the nail on the head with that one, Sophia. If you go into the test thinking that it's an obstacle that you can't get past, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you approach it as something you're ready for, something you've prepared for, you're much more likely to stay calm and perform well. It's also important to remember that one test does not define your future. Sure, it's important, but it's not the end of the world if things don't go perfectly. In fact, many people do better when they shift their focus from perfection to progress. So, focus on doing your best, not on stressing about achieving a perfect score.
Exactly, Adam. Another great way to tackle test anxiety is by getting plenty of rest the night before the exam. It might be tempting to cram all night, especially if you're feeling unprepared, but getting a good night's sleep is essential for cognitive function. When you're well rested, your brain is sharper and you're better able to focus and recall information. Lack of sleep, on the other hand, can cause fatigue, which adds to stress and makes it harder to think clearly. So, make sleep a priority, even if you feel like you still need to study. Trust me, your brain will thank you on test day.
I couldn't agree more. It's easy to fall into the trap of cramming, especially when you're feeling anxious about the test, but in reality, rest is one of the best things you can do for yourself. When you're well rested, your brain is more alert, and you'll have better problem-solving abilities during the test. Plus, the less stressed you are the night before, the more relaxed you'll be when you wake up, which sets a positive tone for the day. So, stick to a study schedule in the weeks leading up to the test and ensure you leave enough time for rest, relaxation, and sleep before the big day.
Another important piece of the puzzle is to have a test day routine. Knowing exactly what to expect on the day of the test can help ease a lot of that anxiety. Plan everything ahead, what time you need to wake up, what you'll eat for breakfast, and even how you'll get to the test center. Having this routine set will reduce last-minute stress and help you feel more in control. And on test day, when you walk in, you'll feel ready, calm, and prepared.
Yes, having a test day routine is a game changer. It's all about reducing those little unknowns and controlling what you can. And here's another tip that I think is really helpful for managing anxiety during the actual test. Take your time. If you're feeling anxious, sometimes it's easy to rush through questions. But remember, rushing only leads to mistakes and more anxiety. Take a deep breath before you start each section. Read the instructions carefully, and if you don't know an answer, move on and come back to it later. That way, you're staying calm and not getting stuck in a cycle of panic.
That's such an important point, Adam. It's easy to feel pressured by the ticking clock, but rushing never helps. And if you're feeling overwhelmed during the test, try a quick mindfulness technique. Close your eyes for a few seconds, breathe deeply, and focus on the present moment. This will help ground you and release some of that built-up tension. And remember, if you start feeling stressed, it's perfectly fine to take a brief mental break. A few seconds of calm can make a world of difference.
Exactly, Sophia. Mindfulness is a super effective tool for staying calm. And finally, let's not forget the importance of staying positive. When you feel anxiety creeping in, remind yourself of all the hard work you've done. You're prepared, you've practiced, and you've got this. Trust in yourself and your abilities. After all, you're in control, and you've been putting in the effort for weeks. Now, it's just time to show up and do your best.
That's such a powerful reminder, Adam. And remember, no matter what happens, you've already accomplished something incredible by simply preparing for this exam. It's not about perfection. It's about doing your best and learning along the way. So, listeners, if you're feeling anxious, take a deep breath, trust in your preparation, and stay calm. In the end, this test is just one step on your journey.
Exactly, Sophia. You've got everything you need to succeed. Now it's all about managing those nerves and stepping into that exam room with confidence. And when you follow the tips we've shared today, you'll be well on your way to tackling test anxiety head-on. Wow, what a journey it's been today. We've covered everything from understanding the tests to managing anxiety, building strategies, and staying confident. These steps will truly make a difference for anyone preparing for English proficiency exams.
Absolutely, Adam. Remember, listeners, the path to success isn't just about studying hard. It's about preparing smart, staying calm, and believing in yourself. Each step you take brings you closer to your goals, so keep going.
And hey, if today's episode helped you even a little, make sure to share it with a friend who might need these tips too. Let's grow together as a community of learners.
That's right. And don't forget to follow us for more episodes where we'll bring you tips, strategies, and encouragement to help you succeed.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Remember, this is just the beginning of your journey, and we're here to support you every step of the way.
Until next time, stay confident, keep practicing, and never stop learning. You've got this.
Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.